you get one of these AI written emails. It's too formal. Nobody wants it. It's like, what is
No one talks like that.
Delete.
Like, yeah,
let's keep it real, right? But what I heard yesterday, I thought this was interesting, was AI powered and utilized properly with humans is way more powerful than just those, than just the brokers, just the carriers, that are, using it together. I'd love to get your thoughts on what you feel. Obviously, you use ChatGPT, you use a lot of different AI tools. We use a lot of different AI tools. What does it look like for you, and what have you seen be successful in your day to day?
Yeah, well, we've tried it all, right? Because who doesn't want to at least dabble in it? But I found success just being myself. We reach out to brokerages, right? We're not reaching out to shippers, but even those brokers can tell, okay, they're using ChatGPT for their technology just to get it out there. Like, they want to know how can you help their company and understand their pain points. And but it was worth a shot. Like, it didn't work, we move on, right?
Yeah.
But I've heard some success stories that it did work.
Yeah.
Because you can gather ideas. Maybe it does draft you up an email to send to a customer, and maybe you tweak it. Sometimes you may have a little hard of a time or hard time trying to gather an email, your thoughts. That's kind of nice with ChatGPT. You can kind of throw your thoughts in there and be like, hey, draft me up an email that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right. So, it's hit or miss, but from my personal experience, it wasn't good.
Yeah. I thought something that they shared yesterday, and I would love for anybody watching today. Obviously, we got some people on. What's your experience been, or how are you utilizing AI today to help your business or to help you personally? I did send from a personal note. I sent a random poem the other day to my wife that I had ChatGPT write up for me, and I think it got me some points. So I'll take that. I appreciate that. Shout out to them, right? But I would be curious. Tire Killer, are you using any form of AI in your day to day, right? In business, and I want to give you some examples of what they talked about yesterday. And obviously, we're going to continue to talk about sales, but I would like to flow with you back and forth on, here's what they said on yesterday's show. Where does that fall in line with you?
Okay.
Right. The picture that they painted yesterday, and this was wild to me, was I don't. It'd be interesting to know this from everybody watching today, but can you imagine as a sales rep, you walk into the office, and your CRM or whatever potentially replaces a CRM to work in every day. You come in as a sales rep, and it gives you 10 people to call. It tells you what you're going to talk about, and it's going to tell you, how those conversations are going to go. Can you imagine doing that? Right now, as a sales rep, there's a lot of gray in our day. I like to say that.
Okay. You're wearing a lot of gray today.
I'm grayed out. I am grayed out. But there's a lot of gray in the day, right?
Yep.
You don't necessarily have to call each person at these times. Now, some calls are appointments and those things like that. But I can imagine coming in and you have a system that actually is already, hey, here's your 10 calls for today. Here's what you're going to talk about. Here's the companies. And more of a set it and forget it sort of. They said we should really focus on sales reps focusing their skills on becoming a nurturing, soft skill driven, person, right? And because as we continue to use AI, it needs to be for operational, not so much for how do you build trust. How do you think like that
outreach? Yeah. Well, and I think it's helpful to have that kind of tech in place, because if you come in Monday morning or maybe Tuesday and you have nothing on your calendar, do you really have the motivation to make some calls?
Not normally.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Imagine having that ready to go, and hey, here's what happened on your last call. Call Jack at noon. He wants to discuss more of how you find your carriers, whatever, right? So I love having that in place.
Yeah.
Good for consistency, and that's something I wrote on here is consistency on the phones. And something that Nick Klingensmith said too, like, you don't need to spend hours doing it. Set some time aside to do it here and there.
Yeah.
But do it consistently.
Yeah.
And one thing that he put through this today, no one likes picking up the phone, right? But one thing he did mention this morning on LinkedIn was you got to go through the suck so you can get through the suck. I love that. I don't know if he's watching, but yeah, it sucks. It sucks making cold calls. It sucks reaching out. Like, a lot of people are extroverts, right? They don't want to talk to people. Introverts, sorry. Not introverts. They're introverted, so they don't want to talk or pick up the phone, which I get.
Right.
But I think the more and more you do something, you get a lot more comfortable.
Yeah.
And for those of you that are watching, Jared and I are a little bit introverts, so us hopping on a podcast like this, we got more comfortable as we did it.
I know. Don't look at me. Don't look at me.
But I think the more you do it, and I know it sucks, but if you get through that suckiness and you can see yourself be successful, like you just get more comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought something that sales rep that I was working with yesterday, I thought it was interesting that what he picked up from Nick was, don't just tell yourself, hey, I'm going to make cold calls today.
Right.
Tell yourself that you're going to make 5 cold calls today, and then put a number to it. Yeah. And it's the same when you're trying to lose weight or whatever it may be. Hey, I need to lose weight. Well, no, I need to lose 20 pounds. Here's how I'm going to get there. Right. And I'm going to reverse engineer my way back into, all right, I need to eat this amount of calories each day, and here's how I'm going to do this. And then over a 26-week period, I'm going to lose that 20 pounds.
Well, and you got to take it day by day. And one thing that I think I know I've done before is we're comparing ourselves to others.
Yeah.
Like if you get on LinkedIn, there's people talking about, I got my first customer today. I'm 3 months in, and then here's another user saying, well, I'm 2 years in, and I had a customer, lost them, but now I'm struggling, right? So I think the easiest thing we do as humans is compare to ourselves, and that just breaks us down.
Yeah.
So don't compare yourself to others, in my opinion. Take it day by day. Yeah. And I just think building relationships and just finding the right fit for you. Mm-hmm. Like you said, not every customer is going to be a good fit.
Yeah, absolutely. I have definitely over the course of my life had customers that were not my cup of tea. Right. Boy, howdy. I mean, it just didn't work for me. You know what I mean? Jared the book.
He is the book, man.
The walking book. I appreciate that. But I've had some customers that literally, it hurt. It cringed. I cringed when I saw a friggin' email come from these people because I know I was never good enough for them. They were gonna. I didn't care if I showed up 10 minutes late to that pickup. Yeah. I didn't care if my driver got out and they didn't like the fact that he was wearing a friggin' red T-shirt. It was out of control. Before they do all these 10 calls. Yeah, exactly. I mean, let's go, right? Let's get it done.
I was kind of joking.
It was kind of.
Kind of a joke, but make the calls.
Exactly. So I think finding the right cup for you is so important because, boy, I've been in those relationships. I had a mentor of mine say, work with people that you want to work with. And don't be afraid to walk away from those people, even if that hurts. Even if it's a revenue thing. Even if that hurts, it's like, there's a lot of stress to it. And at the end of the day, this industry is wildly stressful.
It is, and 100%. And a lot of the things that you share with us on our weekly shows it's from experiences, and I think that teaches you a lot about yourself. And I love that you come on the show and you express and you tell your experiences because it's real life stuff.
Yeah,
and people are going through that. I have so many people in our DMs, and bless your hearts, and they're like, "How does Jared do it?" Or what does he do every day to prepare himself? Well, it's just experiences. Picking up the phone and doing it. I've heard some crazy stories from you getting told that, F off or getting kicked out of buildings. You can't.
When I was on when I was an in-person salesman, that was ridiculous. I didn't even know where to go with that.
Right. So, I mean, it's just those experiences that you're going to be facing. It's going to definitely help you down the road, maybe 5 months from now or a year from now. But every time you pick up that phone is an experience. And it's going to help you on the next call.
Yeah. Here's something, and I'm curious. I'd like to maybe chat about this a little bit here. Tire Tiller says, I'm telling myself that I want to start a new business. I'd be curious of what that is. I'm a big fan of this cat. Where are you at this week? What are you doing? What are you up to, man? Always been a big fan of this dude. But I thought yesterday they said something that was awesome. For those of you, I just want to give you an idea of if I'm a driver, okay? I think this is probably one of the more interesting things that you could do with ChatGPT, with Claude, with I can't remember the Google one off the top of my head, Google Gemini. There's some interesting chatbot things that are out there that'll help you. But I want to give you an idea of what they said yesterday on the show. This isn't my idea. This was just an idea that they had for field reps, and I thought this was so interesting, okay? Tire Killer, imagine you're taking a load up to Chicago.
What's up, Trey?
Hey, what's up? What's going on, Trey? Imagine you're taking a load up to Chicago, okay? And you know the receiver's name. It's, ABC Manufacturing, okay? If you got on ChatGPT, by the way, just all you have to do just to get on ChatGPT, it's just an app. You just download the app, get an account, it's free, right? There are some there's some better things. There's like a higher premium if you want to pay for it. It's like $20 a month or something like that. But just imagine that you type in that company's name in the city that they're in. Okay. Now, if you don't have a load, normally Tire Killer's all contract, but let's just say for those guys that are out there on the spot market and you're a carrier, type in the receiver's name, the consignee, right? And say, hey, I have a truck. I'm delivering a load to this receiver in Chicago. Tell me 12 other, 15 other, 20 other shippers that are like this guy within miles of that deal, right? And it'll just pop them up. It was the wildest thing. I loved every second of it. And it was talking about if you're an outside sales rep to do this exact same thing. But I'm just thinking from a carrier standpoint, how do you get just a little bit better? And maybe you just pick up the phone. Hey, I got a 53 or 48 step. I think Tire Killer's got a 48 step deck, and just say, hey, I'm here right now. You know what I mean? And I think that's extremely important. Tire Killer says, I'm tired of this damn truck and want something more from life than road rage. May start a pressure washing business. Man, I tell you what, that ASMR thing that my kids are into, where they watch like friggin' clay get smashed and stuff like that. I gotta say, as an adult, the ASMR for me is watching some cat pressure wash a friggin' sidewalk from like dark rated.
It's entertaining. Isn't it?
I gotta lose it. Get one of them hotsies or whatever. What do they call them? I think they call them hotsies.
Tire Killer, I hope you find what you're looking for, man.
Yeah,
we love you, brother.
Take a step back, man. You know what I mean? Take a week off. Go enjoy yourself. Take some time. And honestly, you're gonna start a business. Go download one AI app and start to talk through with it that aspect of things. Who's the Astros fan? Oh, that's an interesting question. I'm more so a Nolan Ryan fan. It's when he grabbed that guy and just started to just hammer him like this, like just that. This is one of my favorite friggin' things about this cat. I mean, oh my gosh, Nolan Ryan was incredible. We have got a guy that works here in this office that is a fanatic when it comes to sports memorabilia. He's got some of the coolest stuff I've ever seen in my life. Like I walk in, I'm like, what is that?
Yeah. We'll talk more about what we have behind us. I think it's entertaining. But we got a special guest coming on. Yeah. Samantha Jones is back. Samantha, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
We're great to see you. Great to have you on again.
Yeah, good to be here. You have to remind me, do we do this once a month or is it?
Yeah, once a month.
Yeah, it always seems like it's not that long. Like I'm like, oh, we did this last week or a week before. And I'm like, this is only once a month. So
yeah, you're a wildly busy person.
Oh yeah, we've been watching.
and I know you have. I've got some questions for you after you to kind of tell us some stuff. So try not to go too far because I really would like to ask you about one of that. The Meet Me for Coffee you had last week with all the special guests, out of control. That was truly wonderful. I'm sure a lot of our guests, I don't know if a lot of them made it or not, but I wouldn't mind picking your brain on that. But give us what's going on in your mind today. We'd love to hear.
Yeah. So if anybody didn't get that show, it's going to be on my Spotify, Apple channels, YouTube, LinkedIn. LinkedIn and YouTube are the only places you can like watch the video version, obviously. So those are great. You can find it on my profile if you just go to my LinkedIn at Samantha Jones. But I think like maybe just recapping that real quickly and like a couple takeaways. It was a little bit depressing, but I would say that, there are market experts and economists that were represented there, all took the same opinion that they don't really see any type of demand stimulus coming for the freight market. Honestly, some of them are kind of already like calling the rest of 24 a wash and then like wondering where it's going to come in 25, because typically Q1 is always the weakest quarter of a year as far as freight volumes go, because we like finish the peak season of holidays and stuff, and then everything like kind of dies until we get into spring action again. And so like it's possible at this point that we're just going to continue to see kind of muted activity until Q2 of 25, which I think is just obviously going to unfortunately drive a lot more carrier exits, capacity exits, which is really what's ultimately necessary when the volumes pick up a little bit more to kind of create that imbalance that causes those rates to start moving in an upward direction. And so that's kind of where a lot of people are calling it as they see it right now. Of course, tropical events, anything like that could cause some like changes sooner. But I think like all that would ultimately do as well as continue to sustain a higher level of capacity for longer, right? So like if rates did go up because of a tropical event and some people got some relief, it kind of like on rates as far as carriers or even brokers on their margins, it kind of keeps them in the market a little bit longer. There's been a lot of broker exits. I don't know if you guys have kind of been following that, like Brush Pass Research measures that. We've had like thousands of brokerages each month, like turning over their authorities and going inactive. And so it was originally, everybody was like, oh, it's such a tough market for carriers. And I've been saying, for a long time, like, well, yeah, but then, when they started buying so low, they only had it was a finite amount of time that the shippers were going to take to catch up to that and realize that they were paying higher at a contract and the brokers were buying low in these spot markets. And so that's kind of whittled itself down now to where broker margins are quite slim. And so nobody's feeling really good right now. And we're all just kind of trying to navigate that and like figure out where we're headed, which kind of got me thinking today about like a sales tip. And I just was on a call with one of my carrier clients right before this, and he was kind of asking about some negotiation things. And so that's what I wanted to talk about today is I think a lot of people don't always realize how big a part negotiation is to a sales process. And it can happen like very early in a conversation. It can be in a very small conversation. It happens like on a micro level every day if a carrier is like working with a broker to negotiate their rate for a load, or if a broker is working with the shipper or a carrier is working directly with the shipper to figure out their pricing. And so I just wanted to encourage people today to not just focus on rate, but like focus on the why behind the rate. I think that's what we leave out a lot. And it's more like, hey, here's my rate. Here's why my rate is this way. And here's all the things that I can do for you. Like, here's my highlights. Like, here's why you want to work with me instead of that other guy. And like, does it always work? No. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of people out there who are looking for people that can be consistently strong performers for them. And you don't know that about someone if they're just focused on a rate right now. You can't get a lot out of that conversation or know why you should be comfortable and confident and trusting them with your business. And so it can be pretty simple, not asking people to like haggle rates and prices. I'm sure that's already plenty a part of everyone's day-to-day life right now, depending on your role in brokerage or fleets. But just I see it all the time. Like, it's actually embarrassing, like to me, to some extent, like large scale organizations, lots of large brokerages and carrier fleets are like, yeah, we did an RFP. I don't know if we're going to get anything. And I'm like, oh, well, like, have you heard from him? What have you been talking? Like, what was the feedback? Like, are you engaging? And like zero engagement. Like, there is almost no chance of success in getting one load from one person, like on a micro level, or winning an RFP when we're not trying to communicate like the why behind the rates that are there. And who you are and what you do. Like, you're just at that point, you're just, throwing your name in a hat and hoping that you get your name drawn. And that's unfortunately not how decision makers in transportation and shippers make their decisions. They're not pulling names at random. They're looking at your performance, your incumbency status. And they're looking at those people first, of course. And then if you're new to them, then they need to know, why should I trust you? What do you do? How well do I know you? Do I have a relationship? Did you explain yourself? Like, what do these rates mean? Are they paper rates, or is there something behind them? So tangent over there. But at the end of the day, I think that we sometimes think of sales as just like top of funnel, getting an opportunity or trying to get that first phone call conversation. It's like, that's step one. And then there's a lot of work that has to happen in that like negotiation and proposal stage before you can actually start doing business. And sometimes these are micro things that happen in a matter of an hour. And sometimes we're talking, I think one of the longest deal cycles I ever worked at when I was at ArcBus was an 18-month deal cycle to bring on new business. And so huge scope there, but all of them are important, and you can't give up in that negotiation and communication phase of a sales cycle.
Yeah, I think, that's such an interesting point. Differentiating yourself, even in those micro negotiations, is like, think about those carriers that are just living off the spot boards, which is wildly challenging.
Yeah.
But if you don't at least explain who you are and why you're doing it and what you're doing, you just become a commodity. And that is so hard to stand out because it's very noisy. It's a very noisy market. You know what I mean? And if you don't take the time to do that, God, I love that, Samantha. It's so good.
And, I will say, like, I did carrier sales for a while when we were growing startup brokerage. Like, it wasn't supposed to be my role, but there was days where we had to have help, right? Like we were all pitching in and getting a brokerage off the ground. And so I've been, for anyone listening in brokerage, like I've been there. I was at $0 and like we scaled it, quickly through a lot of experience and hard work. But I've made my fair share of calls to help our teams cover loads that were uncovered. And we always tried to use a big part of my job was bringing on carriers that we had like 30, 45-minute conversations with their leadership, and we were asking for documents and we were vetting them out because we were bringing them in to put on our contract freight, right? So like core carriers that we made sure they checked all the marks on our list for like, do we feel confident, comfortable in their experience to service at a high level? So that was like what our standard was. That was probably 80% of our freight was going with carriers that like we had established relationships with that we knew well. So when we had to go to a spot market and I'm calling these people, to me, like it was almost shocking, like the lack of professionalism and just like, I don't know if I want to give you anything, like just by the way I'm trying to communicate with you and what I'm getting back. And I mean, I get it because like you have to kind of take a step back and be like, usually these people are talking to, who knows, some big box broker, like carrier rep who's just as unprofessional, or they're just tired of talking in general because you're like, I'm in my truck, I'm just trying to like get my next thing figured out. But I think like if I was a carrier, and even if I'm myself, my one owner operator, I'm running under my own authority and I'm trying to get my loads, every time I answer that phone, I'm talking like I run a business. Like I'm an owner of a business, I'm a customer service agent. And like, if I would have heard that, you know what, I might have been willing to work with you on rate. If you like sounded like someone I would want to work with again, then I might have been a lot more willing to be like, okay, maybe I'll lose some money on this load. And by the way, like what do you got going on? What do you do? Where do you run? Can you tell me that? Like, can we work together in the future? Can we find a way to work together where I'm not losing money on this one, but like you'd be making money too? So, but it was just like abysmal for the most part. Like if you're a carrier, put yourself in the shoes of the brokers too, because probably over 80% of the time that we make a call off of someone on some type of a load board or something that slipped through our primary carrier base, the quality of that contact has got to be like 80% lower than like what we have with our regular carriers on a day-to-day basis. And so it stands out, and it's not good. It's not something that we're like trying to engage with you on to like help you out on your next load when you get into that market or whatever. And it's unfortunate, but like the good brokers who run a lot of contract freight with committed carriers can easily feel that difference and know if you're someone worth like trying to invest and partner and work with. And that's another thing. As a carrier, a smaller carrier, you never know who's going to be your next like strong broker partner that can really make a difference for your business and introduce you to that contract freight. So, I mean, I had tons of contract freight at my business when I was helping, and we were calling for things that fell through. And like, we're trying to just talk to these guys, and it's all transactional is what I'm hearing. And it's like, we're just haggling price and nothing else is coming up. I don't know anything about them or what they do. And at the end of the day, I had, $30 million of contract freight that they could have asked me about, but we never made it past to that point. So treat your phone calls like you're a business, like you're in customer service, you're a professional, and always like think of, that phone call as a potential opportunity for something more until they prove you wrong or prove otherwise, right?
I respect that too. Yeah, you should. I mean, even if you're on the phone, like you say, you should treat everyone with respect. It's just, I'm a big fan of that. And one of my favorite things is though, when we talk to carriers, obviously they want to find direct, but I love when they even outreach to brokers to try to build more relationships. I love that.
Yeah, I do too.
I do love it.
I do too. I know, coming from the carrier side, I worked for a carrier for a while, and we get calls, and it's funny you say that, Samantha, because we get calls from brokers that just they may have not the experience level that they needed, or they may not, and so it's kind of it's all that aspect of, you know what I mean, where all aspects of the business could use a little more well-rounding from the carriers to the brokers. It's such.
I just think that there's a lot of, and I mean, like, this is a personal opinion too, or I guess preference. I don't like things to be super corporate and buttoned up. Like, I've done that before, and that gets a little tiring. Like, but we're all people. But like, business is business, and like when you conduct yourself professionally in business and you treat it as such, it usually goes well for you, as opposed to if you're not conducting yourself professionally. Yeah. And so like, just like, if you are running your own authority, you have a business, and like you're responsible for your own income, for your livelihood. And I know these guys know that, but like, be proud of that. Like, if you were going to grow that one day to 10 trucks, like, how would you want your other 9 drivers to be representing you when they're talking to people? And so like, set that tone for yourself. And I think honestly, it just comes down to like, just kind of like a life tip, but like, have high expectations and standards for yourself in business. And no matter what you're doing, you don't have to own something. Even if you're like, you are an employee of another business, like, have high standards for yourself and high expectations for where those standards can take you. And that's another thing we talk a lot about. This is like, have high standards, have respect, treat everyone with respect. Well, the good thing about doing that is like, when people are disrespecting you, you know that you don't tolerate that, and you walk away from that because you have those higher standards and you treat people with respect. So therefore you don't deal with that when you're not getting that reciprocated, right? And so there's all this like animosity between different sides in our industry, and it's like, just moving on, like, keep moving until you find the people who are also professional like you and willing to engage and do business well. None of the organizations that grow quickly that you're seeing scale and grow and stuff like that, for the most part, like, none of these people are running these businesses like they would talk to their friends, or like it's like casual, or tolerating, being disrespectful. And like, now we can say like, sure, I understand there's little exceptions to everything, because I personally think like the whole cradle to grave model concept, large brokerages, every freight broker is their own micro business. And so there's lots of like good and bad examples within those types of businesses. But if we're looking at like split model brokerages or fleets, the ones that are scaling take their businesses very seriously and take their partnerships very seriously.
Yeah, I love that.
Also,
I love that. Samantha, thank you for being on today. You're always a rock star. She always brings so much value. Samantha, where do people find you? How do people listen to your podcast? I love your podcast. How do people find you?
Sure. I'm on LinkedIn. It's where I'm at the most, at Samantha Jones. And then I have a podcast called Meet Me for Coffee with Samantha Jones. You can find it on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and LinkedIn. And definitely check out the most recent freight market update panel that we had. It's an hour long, but it's a good listen because we had a lot of expertise there. People way smarter than myself weighing in on what's going on with the freight market.
Yeah, I enjoyed it thoroughly. It was awesome. I mean, it was just a great hour. So well worth the time. When are you dropping that one?
It should be on Spotify at least probably by today, but here at the end of the week. And then it's already on LinkedIn, like it stays. So you can go back and watch it on LinkedIn or YouTube, but we'll get it out on the other channels here. And then we'll have our next episode, not this next Tuesday, but the next. So I think we'll be in July for the next episode.
Love it. Thanks, Samantha. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate you.
Yeah. Bye, guys.
Later. It brings a lot of value.
Yeah. If any of you guys need any more of her info, just shoot me an email. I'll get you, links to everything she has. She's wonderful. One thing that kind of stuck with me, what she was saying, is just treating everyone with respect, right? I talked to quite a bit of brokers that, they know what carriers not to work with because they had that phone call.
Yeah.
They're probably a great company, but just the way they handle themselves. And it goes same for carriers to brokers.
Yeah.
Carriers don't want to work with brokers that don't pay attention to the notes from the shipper or aren't relaying information. Like, oh, you need steel toe boots today? Oh, you didn't tell me that, right? Yeah. So it's like, it goes both ways. But I'm a big guy I'm a big fan of the respect. Yeah. This is your business. You got to show it, be proud of it. Yeah. I mean?
Every phone call is an opportunity.
Yes.
And I think something that I would say something that I noticed going from being at a carrier to going into brokerage is that the mindset all of a sudden changed to, I need to provide a solution even if it doesn't work the way the customer needs it.
Right.
And I think carriers sometimes almost get boxed in. You know, they say, well, I'm not there now. That's not going to work for me. Instead, they should say, you know, best case scenario for me is I can pick up Thursday by 3. Would that work for you? And I think asking better questions in all aspects of your life is as good as the quality of the questions you're asking, right? Yeah. We've heard that from different authors, and even yesterday, you know, in that AI thing, the better the prompts you're giving to those chat functions, the better the responses you're going to get. Right. And it's no different than this. If you're a carrier and you're in sales, which you are, man, I tell you what, think about every call and go, how do I give them a solution, even if it doesn't work for them? Right. They're going to remember that. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because if they don't get it covered, they're going to be like, hey, wait a minute, that, you know, Tire Killer told me he could pick it up Thursday. I wonder if that still works. Right. You know what I mean? Right. So always give them a solution, even if it doesn't work for them.
I like that.
You know what I mean? Yeah. I think that's so important. I also thought what was interesting, you know, about when you get, I mean, if you can get, you can just pay for or you can just get a premium and start that way if you want to go up to 4. Obviously, there's some cool stuff in there. But, you know, I thought something that was really interesting that we've kind of danced around a little bit, and I just want to make kind of a clearer aspect is, you know, Tire Killer says, I'm tired of this damn truck. Mm-hmm. You know, Samantha's talking about, you know, imagine it from a shipper's perspective. She said that and she just kind of graced over it. Mm-hmm. You know, and I'm like, man, like if everyone would just take a moment and go, I wonder what they're thinking about or what's important to them. Right. Something that they said on the deal yesterday, and I loved this. You know, when you're using these large language models, these chat GPTs and the Claudes and all that, whatnot, you know, you're just asking questions all about yourself. But the people on the other end of this, in order to make you successful, the clients, the shipper, you know, the shippers, the possibly the carriers, I think it's so important to try to take a moment to step back and say, I wonder what's important to them.
Right, because they have goals too.
Bingo. And those goals need to be, you know, those great sales reps, not the good ones, but the great ones, understand what the other person's goals are, right, just from the sheer fact of research, from the sheer fact of experience and things like that. And that is so wildly important.
And I think that's a little bit of flavor to add to your phone calls, you know, whether you're a carrier or a broker, you know, the whole aspect of, okay, what's going on there and how can I ask more questions about their goals? You know, what are they trying to reach? How can I fall into those goals and how can I help them get to it? I think that's huge. And I think that really opens up some, I don't know, maybe some softness out of the shipper, the willingness to work with you and kind of at least graze the idea of having a meeting. Yeah. You know, how can we help each other out? Mm-hmm. So I do love that.
Yeah.
I know this, I didn't get her name, but she was writing down on LinkedIn on literally from call 1 to 50. She made about almost, I want to say maybe, you know, 50, 55 calls before she landed a customer. Mm. Now this was over periods of month, you know, time,
right?
But she was listing out, you know, calls 1 through 10, it was prospect or, you know, day 1, she was doing it day by days, right? Okay. She was doing prospecting, you know, day 5 to 10, I made calls, emails, follow-ups, and she did all the way to 50. And then she finally got that opportunity to work with the shipper because she brought so much value, but it didn't happen overnight. It took almost nearly damn 6 months, maybe 7, but you know, that's just the way the environment is right now in this industry. It's tough.
It's challenging.
But I think, you know, for those of you that are getting in this industry, you know, you got to take it into consideration. It's not going to happen overnight.
Yeah.
You know, if you really want to get good at what you do, you got to make calls, ask the right questions, put yourself in the right position.
Yeah, the double P. You know what I mean? It's the double P. Yeah. Patience and persistence. You've just got to just keep marching and just keep going and have some patience. That broker patience, I could write a book about it, I swear. Because I talk a lot about it when I'm with other brokers. And you know, and that broker patience could be just in the moment on a spot rate. Give it a second. Let's see if a carrier calls, or let's see if somebody answers one of these emails I just sent out, or let's make 10 more phone calls or whatever it may be. But just, you know, having that broker patience is just so important.
I mean, because that falls into the follow-up process too. That's one thing that I wrote down here, because you have that first phone call, didn't go well, so you kind of get down the dumps, you let it go.
Yeah.
You know, tell that shipper, you don't tell the shipper, but you kind of move it off to a, you know, where you don't worry about it. But I think you should still follow up.
Yeah.
Because it could spark something.
Yeah.
You know, and I think a lot of people are too quick to say, oh, they didn't want to use me, so I'm done. It's like, maybe that guy had a bad day.
Yeah.
Bad experience with a broker.
Yeah.
Like you said, maybe you asked them, you know, what are some, you know, bad experiences you have faced when working with brokers?
Yes.
How can I help you, right? So,
That's,
man. But I'm a really big fan of that follow-up process, and it's a lost art because I don't feel like a lot of people are doing it.
agree.
But if you get on LinkedIn, there's so many people that are successful, and they talk about that follow-up process. So if you're not following up with a shipper that blew you off, I'm telling you to follow up.
Try again.
Try again.
You don't know.
They blow you off. They ignore you. Send you to a voicemail. Try again.
Yeah. Yeah. Josh Haskins. I don't know if he's watching, but he and I go back and forth quite often. We talk a lot about the sales process, and he asks me, you know, kind of one-line questions consistently. And I thought this was interesting. He had his wife take a day off. So he was on the struggle bus there for a little while, and just he couldn't get a shipper to say yes, couldn't get a shipper to even give him a quote, couldn't get him anything, right? And he had his wife take a day off, and she made cold calls.
Really?
To the same 50 people that he was calling. Okay. Right. And she was considerably more successful than he was. In fact, she was able to talk to somebody that just was just extremely rude to him, you know, and actually even have the opportunity to get a quote, right? And I thought it was just interesting, but you know, he came back to me and he goes, "Hey, I got an RFP, request for pricing, for those of you who don't know what that is." And I kind of coached him through the same thing that Samantha just said. You know, don't just give a price back. Build some value. Build up an idea of why they should work with you, because that same quote went out to 3 other brokers, went out to 3 other carriers, right? And I think that's extremely important, is to just build up a case of, hey, here's my rates, here's why my rates are my rates, and here's the solution of the days that it can pick up. You know, I'd love an opportunity for some feedback, and I don't think I wouldn't be afraid to ask for feedback. Sometimes you just give a quote and you don't hear anything back, and that's more frustrating than anything. So don't be crazy about it, but just say, hey, you know, I've got another client that's quoting something similar. How was my quote? You know, I'd like to know how you made the decision to pick the carrier or broker that you did. You know,
and I love that when carriers come to the table, whether it's to the broker or to the customer, and they know their cost. They have it all mapped out on why they will run it for this and why, you know what I mean? So it's nice when you can map it out, because it shows that you know your company in and out, you're trustworthy about the numbers. Yeah. And that's how you grow a relationship. Yeah. You may not make a big buck your first couple loads. Yeah. But if that relationship is there, the respect is there. Yep. Service, you're doing great service. Yep. I tell you what, you're going to have a pretty bright future.
Yeah, absolutely. So I love it. I love it, Nate.
Jared, anything to add to today's show? We got 70 people here today. I appreciate everyone being on. Man, we're almost at 5,000 subscribers on YouTube. This is crazy, man. I know.
We also had 600,000 views this week.
Yeah, we had 600,000 views.
Crazy, you know, so we appreciate everyone's questions. Yep. Keep the questions coming, because that's what inspires shows. A lot of people are like, hey, can you do a show on this? And so keep the questions coming, keep the comments coming. And we appreciate your support. We wouldn't be out here without you doing it. So. Yeah,
be sure to, like I said, reach out to us. We actually had a few of our viewers reach out asking us to do some more how to answer rejections. Yep. Or maybe do some more role playing. So we could do that. We're gonna definitely
role play.
We'll do some role playing. We'll do some sales calls again. But make sure you like and subscribe so you don't miss this. And then send us an email. Let's chat about your company and see how we can help you guys move forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, guys, thanks again. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk soon. Jared, what's up with the fish?